we look at all significant intercepts, which is almost over 180 intercepts now, the weighted average grade of those intercepts is 1,580 grams silver equivalent over an average of almost 0.8 meters.
Hello to all viewers tuning into Assay TV. I'm delighted to be catching up with Joseph Hebert today. He's CEO of Outcrop Silver and Gold, and Outcrop are developing world-class silver and gold assets in Colombia, of course. So welcome, Joseph.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being with you, Adam.
Yeah, great. So let's start off by framing the company. Could you give us a high-level view of the company and the history?
Yeah, we've been around a while, but actually the main focus of the company for the last 8 years has been Colombia. We've spent enough time there to where we're actually, I would consider ourselves experts on it. The entire crew is Colombian, except for our VP of Exploration from Mexico, out of actually Fruta Lundin Mining, Fruta del Norte, real strong guy. We've learned our way around the kind of obtuse parts of the mining law, and then, but in particular, we've also been able to really nail the social license aspects because we got an extremely high level of support in the community. Otherwise, what we really are focusing on is our Santa Ana discovery in Colombia. I really think we're one of the very few listed companies with a rapidly expanding high quality resource. And when I refer to quality, I'm in particular referring to extreme high grades. And that project we're close to taking from the discovery stage to the next stage of value, which will be a resource report by the end of the year.
Excellent. That's a great summary. And we'll delve into a lot of those points that you've touched on in a bit more detail. But let's start off with some of the news around the drilling campaign. Obviously, looking at Santa Ana, your flagship project in Falan and Tolima Department, Colombia. Could you share us an update on the campaign there and how you're getting to some of these high grades that you described?
Yeah, it's curious, but just for an easy way to look at it is if we look at all significant intercepts, which is almost over 180 intercepts now, the weighted average grade of those intercepts is 1,580 grams silver equivalent over an average of almost 0.8 meters. What we and curiously enough is that some of our best drill assays project to date have actually been in the last month. Part of that is getting into areas that are devoid of any historic Spanish mining. But then the other is we're drilling deeper because that's one easy objective of the resource delineation. And also we're seeing a strong epithermal overprint kind of in the gross center of the system that the Spaniards really didn't touch. But the really high correlation with grade is, and it's repetitive, is we're starting to see a lot of coarse native gold, coarse native silver, coarse electrum, coarse argentites like pyrrhotite, and that's becoming a little bit more predictable now. So we're really excited about that. The other thing too is that we're drilling resource on probably less than 12% of the total property, and before the year's over, we'll kind of be marching south, and we control a mine down there called Frias. And it itself produced 7.8 million ounces of silver at 1.3 kilograms recovered grade. And, we kind of look at it as a 18-kilometer long anchor to the south and anchor to the north where we're working. And it's just really some really exciting developments, particularly as it relates to grade.
Excellent. Yeah. So what's the strategy to really define it from here? You mentioned you got more coarse results coming through. And you're getting quite excited about how the drilling's sort of ramping up in terms of what it's returning. But what's the strategy to really define this resource from here?
I think actually we're fairly close on a internal estimation basis
Right.
already. The internal guidance is between 45 and 55 silver equivalent ounces at between 550 and 750 grams silver equivalent. We have 3 rigs going. I think we're on pace to hitting that, plus or minus 50 million silver equivalent ounces. That's kind of a stake in the ground or a milestone that other companies and investors want to see. But really simultaneous with that 50, we're working way ahead of that projected assay cutoff for the independent QP. What we want to do is raise the bar and go to the next, stage, which would be 100 million silver equivalent ounces, and we think that's possible within 12 months after the first report.
So excellent. So some of the catalysts, the near-term and longer-term catalysts that investors should be watching out for.
Well, the most direct is we're putting out assays at a pace of about drill assays of a pace of about 2 to 3 week intervals, so they can expect continued grade. Usually, if we put in core that looks flashy, it means the next report is going to have good numbers, so people can anticipate that. We're seeing we're getting a little bit higher rate percentage success rate on extreme grades, and those extreme grades I'm talking about, 8 to 10 kilograms of silver. And then the other thing they can anticipate, and we try to make it a bit of a narrative, is we think we need about between 14 and 16 of these high grade mineralized shoots to be comfortable with that 50 million silver equivalent ounces, and so they can kind of make that count for themselves and see we're on pace. And then the most important thing, obviously, is November probably putting out a resource statement with a report to be filed not within 90 days later, because it's you can make some comparisons of Santa Ana to some fairly recent resource reports. You can look at Visa, the grades 362 grams silver per ton. If you look at Blackrock Silver, it's 446. We're talking about numbers possibly in excess of 750. So really the holy grail for dollars per equivalent or EV dollars per ounce is Las Chispas. They're up there around 870. We have some internal numbers to look at that kind of numbers are a possibility, and it really would be a home run for us.
Excellent. Okay, so earlier you touched on your team and you mentioned majority Colombian nationals. Could you just go into some detail there and talk about some of the individuals involved in the exploration?
Yeah, we have a really strong guy, really an anchor to the team, Diego Barrantos, as the country manager. He has to do a lot of the maybe some of the more tedious admin type work also, but he keeps in track of the whole picture. And then that allows, in particular, our 6 geologists on Santa Ana to do their work, to do it efficiently without worrying about admin type things. We have complete support through some very experienced social license or social CSR type directors. Particularly our strongest director on that is a woman named Monica, a lot of experience in country, a lot of respect in country, and able to make things happen with respect to social license. And then very strong VP of exploration. We were able to hire away from Lundin Mining. He actually did resource calculations for Fruta del Norte. And also ran the generative program outside. So, he's really tailor-made in terms of his skills for what we really need at this stage of producing a resource in the project.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about some of the social programs that you've got in place there, because obviously you're embedded in Colombia, you've been there a while, you mentioned, and ESG is such a fundamental piece for both companies and investors at the moment. But it's quite tricky for a junior to get it right from the start. So what have you guys been doing?
There's three aspects that you have to look at. One is, well, maybe I should say four. One is the civil governing bodies. The other is education. Colombia puts a very high premium on education. The other is accommodating. We don't have the problem yet, but we anticipate a problem of dealing with the artists and miners fairly in a way that supports them, and also that generally draws favorable attention from the government, because you aren't just displacing people, you're putting them to work with good, healthy jobs. So we do, we're doing some innovative things, like we have an adult education program. First, primary and secondary education program for adults. Those are kind of open air, but they're with licensed teachers and books. We are on the cusp of buying and importing $40,000 worth of wheelchairs for the indigenous community, because that's something that the countryside wealth just doesn't really allow for very efficiently. So it's something that's really favorable. What we do is it's their decision how they spend funds like that, but we contribute monies to the church benevolence fund. We are actually doing some programs to increase the productivity of farming in conjunction with the University of Antioquia agronomy department. We're actually providing materials for food plots to just help general nutrition through growing. Vegetable plots to better nutrition, and then looking for other micro business opportunities, particularly for the women, because the women have the particular interest of trying to benefit the family. So again, that ties in with the strength of family. So we are working with the microcap type businesses.
Excellent. Yeah, plenty of initiatives going on there. Wonderful. Well, that sort of leads us into my next question around Colombia in general. Some of the things you said there sound like it's a good environment for operating in, but perhaps you could tell us more about what's the situation on the ground there and how is it working?
Well, the most important metric to view Colombia through is that they're permitting mines, and they're permitting mines within a probably substantially better than average global average timeline. One thing that we have to put out up front is that there was the Green candidate, leftist candidate, was elected in presidential elections just a few weeks ago. But he himself, we don't expect his governing to be like his campaigning. He's already put in some fairly center-right advisors with respect to some of his programs. And then the other thing is I think that underground type projects that have a lot of local support and social engagement, I really don't think we're going to be a target for the government. First he wants to deal with the macro scale, climate issues, which is coal and oil, and then the next might be open pits. But we really have in Colombia, we've studiously worked in the high grade underground realm, just because that's where Colombia people are more comfortable, and that's where the more value is, I think.
Yep, excellent. And last thing for viewers, but quite crucially, how are the company financials? How are you looking at the moment? Are you fully funded for this current phase of drilling that you're going to complete?
At this share price, we may need. I'm actually working on a kind of a minimalist budget to get through the entire drilling campaign and the publish of the report. we may need a small injection of cash towards the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But we'll make that minimal, because what we see is hopefully a substantial reevaluation once we have that resource. I mean, if you want to make a comparison or have a comparison, look at BlackRock. They published a resource of 42.6 million silver equivalent ounces at 446, and they have a market cap 5 times ours, and that basically was a steady ramp from them, identifying it to producing it. So we think that could be a fair valuation of our company going forward, and that's what we'd like to raise money at.
Yep, certainly. All the elements are pointing in the right direction for that. So wonderful. Thanks very much, Joseph, for giving us a really good rundown of the company and the project, where you're at the moment. And we look forward to catching up on Assay TV again to hear how it's all going.
Yeah, well, I love doing that. So it'd be a pleasure talking to you again.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.